I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey, Doug! Doug! Oh, that's right, Doug's dead.
Pop Culture Pastor.
Well, Cody, it's been a weird week.
It has.
It's getting warm, as it does. Like sometimes in Kansas, it gets warm in December.
This hot and cold business.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just been a weird week. I've been busy, but I'm excited about this pod because Be Kind Rewinds just kind of excite me. Anyways, now because I get to watch movies in a whole different way.
It hits in the nostalgia also.
Yeah. Plus, we get to revisit like some of our real faves from our childhood and classic, and we're going to get to that later in the main section of the pod with Home Alone. But right now, off the bat, we need to talk about what we talked about. Was that last week?
Last week.
Yeah. Last week, we reviewed The Hunger Games, a ballad of songstresses and wait, what was it? What was the title? It's such a long title.
It was such a long title. Songbirds and Snakes.
Yes. And we reviewed it as two guys who were we knew you knew we weren't experts.
Dave knows nothing and I know even less.
So we did the best we could, but you were in on it. I mean, we didn't pretend we were super big fanboys of the Hunger Games.
I told you I read the first book and then was so disgusted I had to stop.
Yeah, but we liked it.
I mean, I loved reading the book, I should say. The movie.
But sometimes we're just not right about everything because we have a lack of familiarity with the subject.
We are not experts.
Right. And so we thought that we should probably do this segment more often. So we have a geek on the phone, one of the geeks at the round table, the geek phone.
Who is an expert.
And this segment's going to be called What Did Dave and Cody Miss?
So much.
What did Dave and Cody miss? And so we brought in geek Scott Patrick Dillon. I use all three of his names. He knows this. And he's going to tell us some things we missed about the Hunger Games. Because Scott, now you're a big fan of the Hunger Games, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember one of the last times I geek phoned in, we were talking about what are you excited for in the nerd kingdom coming up. And I was literally talking about this movie because we had just read through the book, that being me and my wife. So yeah, I'm a fan. So
all right.
I hear the couples that read this book together stay together.
That's true facts.
Common expression.
So before we get started with what we missed, I'm intrigued by someone who's read the book. How did you like the movie compared to the book?
That's a great question. I'll start off by saying this. I wish this was a 3-part miniseries.
Okay.
And not, or like you guys said, a little bit longer of a movie. Because it's the largest of the Hunger Games books, actually. There's a lot of content that they put in one movie. However, I was really, really impressed with what they did with it. Okay. And that actually seems to be a general fan response that I've seen around, is that a lot of folks are saying like similar things. They wish the movie had more content, even as long as it was. But with what they were able to pull off, I was generally pleased with it. I'd say I was even more than pleased with it. I really, really enjoyed this movie. Of course, like anybody who's a book reader would tell you, go read the book. It's better. But yeah, I was generally surprised. One of the best book to movie adaptions I think I've seen, and it's hard to pull that off.
Wow. Okay, that's high praise.
That is.
Yeah. All right. So how about you let us know some things we missed.
Okay.
What did we get wrong
or messed up? Because there was some mess ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one that I started with, I was listening to the pod and I was like, oh man, that's not how that is at all. And it's actually the relationship between Sejanus and Coriolanus,
Okay.
which you guys labeled as like a best friendship.
Not a best friendship.
Not a best friendship. Actually, it's a lot more one-sided, and it is presented in the novel more this way. So you do suffer a little bit from the translation to film. But I will say there is a scene at the beginning of the movie where you can actually see Coriolanus talking with the other capital folks, and they're asking him, why does he hang out with Sejanus so much? And he's like, I don't know. He's still he's so district. And so there's this kind of there's actually a discrepancy between the two, where Coriolanus is a lot more annoyed with Sejanus and his actions, and he does not really share that bond of friendship with him, especially pre-Hunger Games, but even to post-Hunger Games when they share time in District 12 as peacekeepers. There's like this apprehension on Coriolanus's side because he always perceives Sejanus as like less than because he's district. And he doesn't like all of his bleeding heart actions. And he actually blames Sejanus in part because of his actions during the Hunger Games, why they're both in the district as well. And then, of course, he gets a bitterness with his connection with the people of District 12 that eventually leads Sejanus meeting his fate. And of course, that's one of the motivators for Coriolanus to even record their conversation and out him in the first place.
Okay. He seems real broken up when he dies, though.
So I would say, because early in the movie, like you said, there's that scene where he's talking with other capital people.
I do remember that. Yeah.
I also thought, well, he might be playing the capital people because, like, you don't want to be friends with the outsider, the loser.
Yeah.
And so, like, the movie didn't, like, elaborate well, I feel, in that regard. And like you said, the book shows a lot more detail that we did not get.
I would agree. And especially like having like the knowledge of how the book presents their relationship, I probably am translating a little bit more what I'm seeing on the screen as what I know their relationship is to be. So I wouldn't fault you guys for seeing it the way that you saw it. But yeah, that was like my first thing was on the what you guys missed was picking up maybe the wrong cues between the relationship. Because I will say, on Sejanus's side, it is very real. He does feel like he has a friend in Coriolanus because he can see that Coriolanus is he is pretending to be on the inside, but he's really on the outside. He's really from a poor family. Like, he knows those things. He's a little bit more aware of those things. One of the reasons that Coriolanus even draws close to Sejanus, and especially in the early part of the story, is because like they're all after the coveted Plinth Prize. And if you hear the name on there that's attached to there, the winner of the project that they do where they become mentors was meant to win this large, elaborate prize that was supplied by Sejanus's parents, the super rich and wealthy. And so to try to posture well for that prize, he gets close to Sejanus, knowing the ones who are giving that prize love and care about them as their son. So there is a little bit more of a sneakiness to Coriolanus's motives in even having friendship with Sejanus in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I missed that because I thought they were. Well, the scene where he's crying at his bed, really throws me. I think in that regard.
I get that because it is an emotional weight to that scene, but there's also in the book. I know this isn't in the movie, so I can't fault you at all for this. But in the book, like right after he immediately like goes through his things, he like steals all his money and like. So there's like this whole other part of the scene where you see this part of Coriolanus that's like, okay, what's the last things I can get out of Sejanus?
That's wild.
Now that he's gone. And even to the point where when Coriolanus returns to the capital, he like plays this all on Sejanus's parents, and they like adopt him in, and he enters the university basically being adopted in Sejanus's place in the Plinth family. So that's like one of the ways he gets to climb back to a place of status is that he replaces Sejanus almost, because the parents are aware that they went together, but they never get to know that it was Coriolanus's fault that Sejanus died in the first place.
Man, I wish they'd have done that, played that up more in the movie. He'd have been more like, they try to make him a little more sympathetic, I think the filmmakers did.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, because you kind of have to like present him as the main protagonist. And a lot of times you connect the idea of being a protagonist with being like a hero or more of a sympathetic character. But like towards the end of the novel, like you really start to understand like this guy is headed for what he becomes as like the like ruthless dictator president.
Yeah.
You know, they present that it comes really quick in the movie. Like it's almost like a really fast switch that's made, but the novel has just that much more time to present that to you.
Yeah. Wow. That's good stuff. What, anything else we missed? What did we miss? What else?
Yeah, I've got like two more basic ideas. Number one, I'll hit you with this one is I noticed you guys were saying something about Lucy Gray being made a spectacle so that people could watch her die. But I would correct that and say when Coriolanus entered the ideas of sponsorship, his whole idea was to protect Lucy Gray so that she would actually survive. So the idea of making her into this sympathetic character was so that people would sponsor her more, so that he could provide for her more in the games, so that she would be able to survive longer than what would be previously thought possible, and maybe even actually winning the games. On top of his other cheating that he gets caught for, this is actually a way that he provides a way out for Lucy Gray when we don't see one before.
So what's his motivation here? Because in the movie you get the feeling that he's falling for her. Is that what it is in the book, or is it more selfishly motivated in the book?
So it's a little bit of both. Because number one, he wants to win that prize. His family is, not going to be able to pay their rent. They're going to be kicked out of the apartment, or I say apartment, but it's supposed to be like this luxurious suite that their family has a status they're high above in the capital. And they're going to be kicked out of that. And then once that happens, everybody will know the Snows are no longer at this position. So he wants to win that plinth prize. And one of the motives he sees in doing that is having Lucy Gray win or perform best, because the idea of how you win or how you get the best grade as a mentor is, did you present your tribute the best during the games? And so that's part of the motive. But then there's also this story that goes on with all of their interactions where he actually has some sympathy for this character. He becomes attracted to this character, and they really do actually legitimately fall in love with each other. I liked how you guys put it in the main pod, where it's like this idea that you really can't escape where you come from, which my third point will break into that a little bit further. But they spend a lot more time on the relationship between these two in the novel, and you really get this idea that, man, he when he gets to District 12, the one thing he's looking at is to go find Lucy Gray. The one shining light in everything crashing down is that he'll go get to see this girl that he's super in love with. And they spend a little bit of time on that when he sees her when she's doing the music, but they spend so much more time with that in the novel.
Yeah, I think they do a good enough job in the movie of giving you the idea that if things would have worked out in this perfect way, that his life changes, right? I believe him in the movie when he says he's willing to go off to this northern place with her and leave that all behind. I believed him. So yeah. What's the third thing we missed?
Okay, so the third thing was at the end of everything, who places the weapons in the cabin. And so I seem to remember you guys thinking that maybe Lucy Gray had kept those things back as some kind of assurance or some kind of second plan B kind of thing.
So for me, it was more she had the knowledge of the guys that put the weapons in the cabinet, because the guy at the bar definitely took the weapons. She didn't take the weapons. And so it was more of a knowledge, not necessarily that she would use it, but she could.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah. So let me present it to the way that I where I would maybe steer you a little bit away from that, because there's like no inkling that Lucy or Coriolanus know anything about what's in the cabin. In fact, I even remember them like thinking that the Covey was the only people who knew about the cabin, and they had no idea that these other folks who stashed things there would have even had access to it. And so for me, one of the things that, like, at the end there where the switch up happens, it's because, and I'm not sure if you guys picked up on this or not, but so Coriolanus is, the reason he agrees to go to the North, leave all his life, is because he knows that they're searching for the person who killed the mayor's daughter. He knows that those weapons are still out there. He knows the person who took them was captured and hanged with Sejanus. So he just automatically assumes that they already have the weapons. They're already going to find his DNA on the and be able to connect him to the crime scene and everything. And it's just going to be a matter of time before they pin it on him. They find him, they label him a traitor, and they hang him just like Sejanus. And so for him, he now only sees one option out. Lucy gives him that option by saying, hey, let's run away together. And so he goes with her. But when they get to the cabin and he finds the weapons, he's like, this is the evidence. So
that makes sense.
They're not coming for me at all.
In fact, he's not threatened. He sees another way out.
Right. Because now, guess what? There's only one person left alive who is at that crime scene. And her name is Lucy Gray.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
She works this out too. So she sees the weapons, and she is smart enough to work out that what's going on in Coriolanus's mind is, my way back to the Capitol is removing all evidence that I was connected to this, and that would include these weapons, and unfortunately, Lucy Gray, that would include you as well. And so she runs away from him. This is why she disappears so quickly. This is why he goes into a frenzy. This is why he like chases her out into into the wood and finds the scarf. Then he gets bitten by the snake, which makes him a lot more delirious than they present in the movie. And then he's like just shooting at everything. And then it's all kind of left like, who knows if she dies? Who knows if she doesn't? There's like an earlier scene that I remember where he's talking about, oh, well, I'm going to try to make my way back to the Capitol eventually. And Lucy Gray's like, well, I'm not going back there, And so they like, it goes back to what you guys were talking about with this idea of like, you can't really escape where you came from. There's always this part of Coriolanus that's like, I will find my way back to the Capitol. I will find a way to get back on top. At some point in the story, he just thinks that there's no other option. And so he's 100% willing to give totally into his feelings with Lucy, go run away with her, go build a life with her, because the life that he was trying to attain all this time at one point is no longer possible. But all of a sudden, it becomes possible. It's why he throws the weapons into the lake. It's why he chases after Lucy Gray, because he's like, at first he's like, let's talk about this, but then there's like, it's not an option. Like she has to go. She has to be removed from the equation. And
man, I would have talked completely different about that if I'd understood all that.
Yeah. And it's like the novel is presented from his point of view, and you're kind of in his mind in that. So you really get to like his thoughts as he's becoming more delirious, from the cabin all the way to returning to District 12, getting on the train, going back to District 2. And then they don't stop at District 2. They go all the way back to the Capitol, and he actually gets out, and Dr. Gall's like, this was a test. And she asks him one more time, what do you think the Hunger Games are for? And he answers the Dr. Gall answer, and then she's like, takes him under his wing as an apprentice. He becomes a game maker. And then through that, he, ends up mounting his rise to power, and then becoming, Coriolanus Snow as we know him, 64 years later.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff.
So yeah.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on and filling in the gaps for us. That does change the ending for me a little bit.
/ now I have to read the book.
All right. Well, big thank you to Geek Scott for clearing that up. Now it's time for us to move on to our main portion of the pod.
And we have to go to the Geek Phone again.
Cody, we're returning. We're going to stay on forget it. Cody, to the Geek Phone.
Geek Phone.
All right, here we are. We're on the Geek Phone.
The Geek Phone.
Mm-hmm. And we are with Sam. We haven't talked to Sam in a while, but Sam is our friend that we met at Comic-Con who knows more about movies than we do.
More than I will ever know.
More than most movies. I mean, I'm no Roger Ebert or Gene Siskel or Gene Shalit.
But this is a Be Kind Gene Shalit. That's deep in the well there.
That is.
He dug deep. I miss Gene Shalit. Okay, so we're doing a Be Kind Rewind. We're talking about Home Alone, and the name of this segment is Things You Might Not Have Known with Sam.
All right.
So Sam, what might we not know about Home Alone?
Well, it was directed by Christopher Columbus and written by none other than the great John Hughes, who you may know him from such films as 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Uncle Buck. And it's interesting because John Hughes was known for really looking into the mind of a child and really showing what the world was like when we were younger. And it's amazing is that even though those films were made all the way in the 80s, they still resonate today, especially even with Home Alone as well. Now, it's also important to note that you may not know this, but the house from the exterior and the interior are two different places.
Yes, I did not know that.
Yes, the exterior of the house was allowed to be filmed, but they didn't allow the interior to be filmed. And you'd probably imagine why, because they didn't want their house trashed with all the contraptions and set pieces and everything. So what they did was they actually went into a school gymnasium and built a soundstage, a set, if you will, of the interior. So what you're seeing inside the house is actually taking place in a school gymnasium, believe it or not.
You're killing the fantasy.
Hopefully I'm not too much of that. But on the upside, Joe Pesci, he's known for swearing and cussing and getting off an angry attitude. But what's interesting about him is that he really went full method into the role. The scene where Kevin is hung onto the side of the door and he bites on his finger, that was real. Macaulay Culkin actually still has a dent of Joe Pesci's teeth on his finger still.
Wow. Well, I heard that he method acted that and he tried to be scary around him even when the cameras weren't rolling.
Yes, it is very interesting. And speaking of the cameras rolling, due to child labor laws, there were scenes where they couldn't film after like 8 or 9 o'clock. He had to go home and live his old life. So there were scenes where they're shooting it with Catherine O'Hara and they separate and they film those separately in the daytime sometimes. And what she was actually talking to instead of the Macaulay Culkin was actually a tennis ball that they hung at the bottom of a camera and she just talked to a tennis ball. There's scenes where she's just talking to a tennis ball instead of him.
Huh. Wow.
Yes. And it's also important to note that that John Candy, whom I think was excellent in this film, actually took him one whole day to film his entire scenes. He just went on, did his lines, and went off. Yeah. And a lot of his lines were actually improvised, believe it or not. And you can thank Uncle Buck because you remember there was a film earlier that's a scene between him and Macaulay Culkin and Uncle Buck, where he's talking about his life and he's like, "Why do you work? I don't have an office. Do you work there?" That scene?
Yeah. When they're bantering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they're bantering. The chemistry, when you kind of look back, the chemistry between John Candy and Macaulay Culkin is just gold in that film. It is a golden moment in that film. And it's also important to note that that there's also another McCulkin in the family. The one with the glasses on and the suspenders, that's his real brother, Kieran Culkin. That's his real brother, Kieran Culkin, who would star in other films such as Signs.
Great movie.
And other films, in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And I think a few other films. He was also in Succession, Kieran Culkin.
Very cool. All right, give us one more factoid. One more factoid for the road.
Okay, well, the scene where the car rushes into him and it nearly runs him over.
Yeah.
That was done in reverse, actually. They actually filmed it. They actually filmed the car moving away from him and him screaming, and then they just put it in reverse and then made it look like that he was about to get run over. Well,
that makes sense, doesn't it? I always wondered how they did that. Yeah. Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
Yes, and the truth is that Home Alone, it's kind of debatable as to whether I think it's a Christmas film, because it could take place in the summer and you wouldn't have to change a thing with the plot. But I guess it was the whole idea of family and wholesomeness and being together for the holidays. Like, I'll be home for Christmas.
Beautiful.
I think that was the theme of it. I think of that film, one of the main themes of Home Alone.
Yep, that's exactly what we're going to talk about here in the rest of the pod. So, Sam, it's great as always when we have you on the pod. We hadn't had you on in a while, and I missed the factoids that you bring. A veritable endless well of knowledge.
Right. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on here and share my knowledge of films.
Well, thank you, Sam, and we'll see you next time. All right, buddy?
All right. You as well. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and all other great holidays that come around this time of year.
To you as well. All right, that was good stuff with Geek Sam. We've known Sam for a long time.
Samwise.
I wonder if he'd let us call him Samwise. He is wise.
Very. Beyond his years.
We met him at the very first comic convention we ever went to.
Yep. He was part of history.
He was. He still is.
Boom.
All right, we're here for the Be Kind Rewind on Home Alone. We watched Home Alone. Sam watched Home Alone. Dave and Cody watched Home Alone. And now we're going to talk about it. Go ahead.
So, upon watching this go round, I'm picking up random things that I normally don't pick up.
Yeah.
Including the chips he's eating.
What was the chips he's eating? I didn't get those details.
So it was a Frito-Lay chip, like crunch taters.
Oh. Yeah, I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, like this is if there was viewers that could see this.
Oh, yeah, there's an alligator on it.
Yeah, there's an alligator.
Yeah, I don't remember those chips. I remember pizzerias.
Nope, that wasn't what he was eating.
No, he should have been, because those were amazing, and now you can't have them anymore because they're not a thing.
Neither are the crunch taters.
Yeah, it was awesome. Doing these Be Kind Rewinds has been enjoyable. I was telling you this before we started recording, that I'm watching these movies in a completely different way, and I don't think I've ever watched Home Alone the way I did yesterday when I watched it, in that I didn't realize there's so much deep things in this movie, and especially Christmas Carol allusions and type things in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And really some kind of faith things in this movie that we could talk about. There's some interesting things that this movie, the choices this movie makes, and that Columbus and John Hughes made with this movie. And I'm sure we'll get to those. But we're here for the Be Kind Rewind. Home Alone, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. Can you believe that?
I can. So you either really like Home Alone or you don't.
Yeah.
Because, like, both my parents, they're odd and wild for saying this. Home Alone 3 is their favorite. And that's a completely different kid. Scarlett Johansson's one of the siblings. And, like, there's, like, French foreign, like, spies.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I'm just going to say it, and I love your parents, but they're weird for that. That's weird. That's an odd one.
/ they also say that the kid is a better actor than Macaulay.
Okay. Now those are fighting words.
I don't know. So
right.
Upon watching it this time, there's definitely moments that he's flat as cardboard.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that.
We will.
Here's the blurb, the summary, that came out, the synopsis. When bratty 8-year-old Kevin McAllister, played by Macaulay Culkin, acts out the night before a family trip to Paris, his mother, played by Catherine O'Hara, makes him sleep in the attic. After the McAllisters mistakenly leave for the airport without Kevin, he awakens to an empty house and assumes his wish to have no family has come true. But his excitement sours when he realizes that 2 con men, played by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, plan to rob the McAllister residence and that he alone must protect the family home. This came out November 16th, 1990. You want to know something really cool? Something that I know you can't say?
I was alive during this.
You were alive, but my first viewing of this is in the theater.
I cannot recall if I was taken to the theater.
I'm betting you were probably still a bit young. Your parents don't strike me as the people that take newborns into the theater.
And also, they're not the kind that go to the theaters in general. So you are probably right.
You got to get your parents out more.
Please.
This movie made $476.7 million at the box office.
I would give it another 476 mil.
Man, this movie was a huge, huge hit. And so Cody, where are you at in just like your kind of broad remembrance of this film? Like, where I assume this was big in your childhood.
Huge.
Yeah, huge.
So this is the Christmas movie along with Christmas Vacation that I grew up watching. Every year, those 2 movies had to be watched. And then, of course, the claymation or stop motion Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty animated movie or cartoon movie specials. But yeah, those are the Christmas classics. And then I'm forced to watch The Little Drummer Boy against my will. I have beef with that one.
You have beef with that one. This was a movie, obviously, too. We saw it in the theater and many, many rewatchings on HBO or on video, VHS, that over the years, especially around Christmas. I even once in media class in high school we had a project, with the huge big cameras back in the day, and made a movie that was strikingly similar to the plot of this one.
What?
Yeah, I know. We totally bid it.
My friend Marty is not happy with you guys.
Well, needless to say, my junior year media project was not cinema. So I would agree with Marty on this one. It's in the zeitgeist. Home Alone is still amazingly popular. My kids love Home Alone.
Super quotable.
Yeah, it is. And of course, Macaulay Culkin becomes an absolutely huge star. We heard Sam talk a little bit about Uncle Buck.
Yep.
And I think that's important to like kind of re-hit on that part where Uncle Buck was a John Hughes movie. John Hughes, Macaulay Culkin was in that movie and was very impressive. And that probably gets him the role in this movie.
Giant flapjacks. That's all I remember.
In Uncle Buck?
Yes.
I do remember that conversation that Sam was referencing between him and John Candy, where Macaulay is rapid firing him questions and he's just answering. That was a great scene. And I do remember that one.
That was cinema.
It was. There was just a couple things I wanted to make sure we hit in this portion of the pod, in our just kind of the broad memory of the movie. Over the years, there has been a topic of discussion, which is how did the McAllisters afford? What is it they did? How did they afford? This lavish vacation, taking all these people there? But there is an answer.
Oh, okay. So it has to do with Dad.
Oh, well, it's both of them actually. So, okay, here's the thing. Do you remember? So you wouldn't remember, but back in the 80s.
I was alive, Dave.
And early 90s, they
Definitely
used to do
alive.
this thing with novelizations, right? So that would be someone would take a script that was being made into a movie, and they would hire a writer to turn it into a novel that would come out concurrently with the movie. So, like, I remember reading, a Men in Black novelization, right? The movie with Will Smith.
It was a comic book.
Right. But I enjoyed the comic book, which is why, and honestly, before DVDs, the best part about the novelization, I read the Goonies novelization. The best part is, so they would include everything, obviously, that hit the editing room floor. So in the Goonies novelization, there's the whole sequence with the octopus that's referenced in the movie, but isn't actually in the movie.
It is if you have the DVD.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool to read the novelization. Well, there is a novelization on Home Alone that you may not have known about.
Ooh.
And in the novel, there is a detail that reveals the jobs of Macaulay Culkin's, Kevin's parents.
Kev.
In 1990, Todd Strasser novelized Home Alone. Of course, like I said, it's based on a screenplay published coincidentally with the film in 1990. He also, for just trivia's sake, did the novelizations for the two sequels, Home Alone 2 and Home Alone 3. And there is some tiny details that puts this mystery to rest. Peter McAllister is referenced as a prominent businessman and maybe a day trader.
Yeah.
And Mom is a fashion designer, which explains all the mannequins in the attic.
And also why she's such a snazzy dresser.
Or do you just watch this and pretend that she's her character from
Don't say Beetlejuice.
Skits Creek?
Okay, yes.
Skahits Creek?
I usually say Schlitz. I don't know. But
He's a fan of Canadian adult beverages.
yeah. No, like watching this again, especially after watching that whole series, she has range.
Oh, absolutely. Catherine O'Hara, Under the Radar, is a legitimate comedy legend.
Canadian national treasure.
Oh, is she Canadian? That's right. She starts off on like SCTV, right?
Like everyone, their mom evidently did.
Yeah. Including her TV husband in Skahits Creek.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
And
Eugene Levy.
Jonathan Candy.
John Candy as well, who just watching this movie and then talking about John Candy kind of makes me a little sad. I love John Candy. I love him so much. And I miss him.
Remember the good times.
We missed out on what could have been some like really good old guy roles for him. Sad. All right. Is there anything broadly about the movie you want to mention before we get into this?
Another random thing is like the two bad guys would be dead.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that. They'd
be dead.
That's on one of my categories for sure. But yes, we can definitely talk about why were we like that in the 80s? I feel like the shenanigans, is it the influence of the Three Stooges? It's like slapstick fall down comedy.
Maybe.
Because there was a lot of comedy in the 80s that were like, man, if that really happened to someone, they would be seriously injured.
But it's hilarious since they're not.
I mean, a guy taking a paint can off the grill is so funny.
So my wife, when I told her what movie we were reviewing, she's like, if you were reviewing the second one, I'd be on. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, it has the funniest scene. And I'm like, it does? And she's like, when they're at the uncle's house and the tool chest is coming down the stairs and he's like, that's the sound of a tool chest going down the stairs, and like breaks his nose. And like she does the impersonation perfectly and knows the line by heart, where I'm like, it was a scene. Right?
It's weird what we hold on to, because there's a scene in this movie that every time I see it, I cackle like I'm 8.
There is a scene that I laugh at that most people are like, why are you laughing at this?
Ooh, that's intriguing. I'm assuming we'll hear that later.
You will.
All right, awesome. That's something to look forward to. Okay, let's start off with what holds up. What holds up? Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Let you go first. I got quite a few random things, so.
Okay, here we go. From the first stinking note on the first frame, the score is iconic. John Williams, man. Dude, that dude is prolific. And as soon as the music starts, you just sing along with it. It's that iconic. It shouldn't be. It's a goofy, silly Christmas movie. It shouldn't be a score that sticks with you in your head, but it just does.
It's in my head now.
Oh, so good. And we just don't deserve John Williams. He's amazing. Think about what he's done.
What have you done?
I mean, Superman, the original Superman theme, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Like, these are all the most iconic of the iconic scores.
Was he Jurassic Park as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. He's what the kids like to call the big cheese.
I mean, we're not even talking Hall of Fame. He's like best ever, right?
He's on the very short list.
Yeah.
For sure, Mount Rushmore.
I mean, Hans Zimmer is amazing. But John Williams, but for pure iconic scores, just can't be beat.
Yeah, you're right.
It's good stuff. What holds up for you?
Like, I do like the scenery, especially like the outdoor shots of the house. Like, just it has that Christmas vibe.
Doesn't it make you want to live there? I mean, beyond that, those are really nice houses. It seems like a nice neighborhood.
I'm like, who is doing your lights and stuff?
Not them.
Can they come and do my lights?
You don't think Peter McAllister was out there
No.
hanging up those lights? Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, but very beautiful scenery, even as the pizza guy wrecks into the statue every time.
On a side note, the pizza delivery stuff in this movie is so I delivered pizzas and for a while in my youth, and first of all, I missed the concept of
20 minutes are free?
Yeah, 20. Well, I never heard of it 20 minutes. It was always 30 minutes, but that used to be a thing. 30 minutes or your pizza's free.
I'm pretty sure on the car it said 20.
Yeah, in the movie it says 20. Yeah.
I remember, like, in my youth that some pizza establishments still had 30 minutes are free, but that went the way of the dodo bird.
Yeah, they couldn't continue that. They couldn't promise it that, especially not these days. Man, like if any of our pizza joints tried that, they'd go out of business. They'd be giving away free pizzas all the time.
And I would be getting a lot of free pizza.
But yeah, the pizza delivery stuff hit for me. Pesci at the beginning of the movie when he's dressed up like a cop and he's there in the house is me in my own house every day. Ma'am, big fella. Like, why is nobody paying attention to me?
At some point, I would have thought that, because there's a couple adults that pass by that they're like, oh, they don't even acknowledge the police officer standing in the front of the house.
What? Like, what is happening there? Nobody's going to acknowledge this dude? Also, why are nobody's suspicious of that? What kind of cops are making house calls before Christmas?
They must be in one of the really ritzy neighborhoods.
Really nice neighborhoods. What else holds up?
The ones that we care about.
Right. Maybe if someone listen to this, if you live in a ritzy neighborhood where the cops come over and say, your house is secure, you let us know, because that never happened in the neighborhoods I was growing up in. Oh, they'd show up around Christmas, but it was always for domestic disturbance.
Yeah, not good times. So what does hold up is the watching of old movies, which they do in France, and he does back at the house, which, oh my goodness, those scenes with the angels with filthy souls.
I just love the title of that movie. I want to watch Angels with Filthy Souls.
Snakes.
I need more in the life of snakes in the fellas. You get your ugly, yellow. Yeah.
I'll give you to the count of 10.
When the dad says, pick up all these micro machines.
Oh, I had a ton of them.
I literally yelled out when I watched it again yesterday because, micro machines were fire. Absolute fire.
So my brother-in-law has purchased a huge, collection of micro machines, including Star Wars micro machines.
Yeah, I had Star Wars micro machines.
And so he just has some still in the package. Some he took out for his kids. And so
that is amazing, dude. Those were amazing. They were really detailed for as small as they were.
Oh, yeah.
They were ahead of their time.
I had a micro machines container that was a van, and you had to put all the stickers on it. And my parents were
the holder, the case.
My parents were cursing the day that gift got bought because they're very detailed.
Yeah. Plus, you got to have enough micro machines to fill it.
I did.
Oh, awesome. Do you ever wonder, you ever watch a movie like this where there's a reference to some old toys you have and you're just like, dear God, I just wish I had all my toys that I had right now.
So there's another thing in this movie that I wish I had.
Uh-huh. You going to say it now or we saving it?
I'll mention it now. So, I had Buzz's shelving.
Oh, wow.
And I had Buzz's trash can, the Chicago Bulls trash can.
No.
Oh, I wish I still had the Chicago Bulls trash can. Loved the Chicago Bulls because as a child of the 80s, growing up with MJ.
Yeah, Buzz is a Chicago sports fan for sure. He's got lots of Chicago sports posters and things up going on in his room.
That was where we actually relate to each other. Otherwise, Buzz and I do not see eye to eye.
You want to know something else good in this movie that I liked?
What's that?
I like that nobody is helping any of these kids pack.
Yep.
At first, I was going to put that in something that didn't hold up. And then I was like, you know what? I feel this is why Gen X and older millennials are so much better adjusted. Because kids now can't relate to this at all. We were expected to be able to do things for ourselves.
The only thing I ever was told after I packed was, did you pack underwear in your toothbrush? I was reminded to check that. And that was it.
Right. And if your parents were like that, you're probably doing okay with life right now.
Winning.
But I feel like that's something that now parents would just pack for their kids probably. Am I wrong?
I think up to a certain age.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I was all prepared while watching it yesterday to put it under the what doesn't hold up category. And then I thought, you know what? Nah, it's cool. Pack. You guys pack.
Yeah.
Learn to do it. Oh, no, I never packed before. Well, then do it. Got to learn sometime.
/ this family evidently hasn't been in the neighborhood super long from context clues dropped throughout. And that they're going on this huge trip to Europe. How has he not packed?
Yeah, they were waiting for the night before to pack. That's just the lack of preparedness.
This family.
Yeah. What holds up?
Let's see. I do like some of the banter between the two thieves, Marv and Harry.
Dude, they're so good in this movie.
/ love the wet bandit routine.
Oh. When you think Joe Pesci, don't you think of this role? I mean, he's been in all these great roles. Isn't he nominated for an Oscar in
My Cousin Vinny? I think that.
Well, also maybe Goodfellas.
Goodfellas for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just Marissa Tomei that got nominated.
Well, she wins for My Cousin Vinny.
Good movie.
But when I think of Joe Pesci, I think of this movie. This is the movie I think of, mostly just to piss off Marty Scorsese.
1 and 2 for Home Alone, and then it goes Lethal Weapon.
Oh, right.
For sure.
Leo Getz.
Yep. And then I go My Cousin Vinny, and then we'll eventually get to Goodfellas.
I used to do a mean impression of Leo Getz. I used to do a pretty good one. Okay. That was a great role. I forgot about that one. Something else that held up for me, the insults are on point.
Oh, yeah.
Puke breath, cheek face, les incompetents, phlegmwad, disease, and it has a practical purpose because we see that Kevin isn't just physically forgotten at home. He's mentally forgotten by most of these people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the whole point. The point is he is often overlooked, often forgotten.
Which kind of does not hold up because he is the youngest in a lot of families.
Right.
You are babied.
Right. It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. But the story point is the part that holds up for me. And that, like, you wonder why they're caking on so many of the kids being so mean to him. And it's to point out that, like, hey, he's overlooked. He's forgotten in more ways than one.
He's interchangeable with the neighbor boy.
There obviously wasn't any cheese pizza.
Yeah.
Buzz is messing with him. There was no cheese pizza. That's his favorite. Nobody else wanted it, and they didn't order any. And did you see how many pizzas they ordered? You couldn't order one cheese?
They ordered 10 because he talks about it.
Wild. But yeah, it's all to see that he's forgotten, not just physically.
/ who's drinking milk with pizza? That is too much dairy.
Loose cannons. Do you have anything else?
I think that's a good spot.
I got more.
Okay.
I'll just rattle through them real quick.
You rattle through them because, like, I have, like, a lot of what's good, but I don't know if it necessarily holds up.
Oh, okay. Suburban Legends, the old man, the story. It's like, Buzz, I'm pretty sure if it was common knowledge that dude murdered his whole family back in 58, he'd be in prison. So, but such were Suburban Legends. We had a couple of those in some of the neighborhoods I grew up in when you knew that they couldn't be true. But you told them anyways.
Liars.
Also, in his little story, mummifying bodies would be a terrible way to dispose of them. Just saying. I'm not an expert in murder, but you don't want to you don't want to preserve them.
I did watch a doc recently with a mummified body.
Oh, yikes. Mitch Murphy, the neighbor kid, is every neighbor kid ever for all time.
Yep.
They nailed it. John Hughes nailed that character.
Don't forget to bring me back something French.
Gus Polinski, the polka king of the Midwest, the Kenosha Kickers. You may have heard of his hits: Polka Polka Polka, Twin Lakes Polka, Yamahuzi Polka, a.k.a. the Kiss Me Polka. No? Nothing.
Oh, I know all of those because I'm wearing a shirt with them.
He is wearing the coolest Gus Polinski and the Kenosha Kickers polka shirt ever.
That's how I roll.
Oh, so good.
If I could get some Gus Polinski socks or the actual jacket. They do sell the jacket.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be too school for cool.
The last half hour of this movie always holds up. The mayhem. It is the wheelhouse of this movie. It's like you're just waiting for the last half hour. And the spider scene with Marv is my scene. That's the scene that makes me cackle when he screams and then he hits
Harry
with the crowbar. I love that scene so much.
I love it when he's hits back and he's like, "How do you like it, you jerk?"
So good. Why is that so funny to us? Why is them getting just the nerd beat out of them so hilarious?
So my wife is terrified of spiders. And I watched it right before coming to record tonight. And so that scene comes on. I'm laughing. And I'm like, oh, this would be you. And she's like, no, I'd be dead. Like, if you put that fire on me.
All right. So, like, before we go to what doesn't hold up, do you want to say some of your good stuff or no?
Oh, sure. I would love to. So, Sam did mention that John Candy was just there for one day.
Yeah.
Which I knew, and I loved that he was willing to do this cameo and not really get paid anything for it. And the scene that makes me laugh that other people don't laugh at is when they're in the van and she asks him, have you ever left your kid at home on a holiday? And then he's like, no, but I did leave one at a funeral parlor once. Left him there all day with the corpse. When my wife and I finally came to, it was the evening, and we got him, and he was okay after 6 or 7 weeks. Kids are resilient like that. And her facial expressions during this whole story that he's telling is perfect. Just because, like, this scene's improv. This one in particular, the story was not written out, and so he's just making up this story. And she goes with it so perfectly, and he nails the delivery.
And now I'm missing John Candy again. What a legend.
Indeed.
What a legend.
So again, things I do like. I like there's a lot of Christmas imagery in this movie, and a couple of interesting things. So the book that the dad's reading on the airplane, Nobody's Angel. Then the movie that Kevin watches, Angels with Filthy Souls. There's a lot of angel stuff going on. The dinner that he does not get to eat because 9 o'clock comes around, he has like angel candle holders. There's a lot of angels.
Interesting.
I'm a little upset for him though, because the mac and cheese TV dinner looked delightful.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the groceries.
But he did not get to eat it because 9 o'clock, and then Marv and Harry show up.
Dang it, Marv and Harry.
Marv and Harry are perfect throughout the whole movie. The guy they cast as Marley, perfect.
Yeah.
He just has this somber, grimace look about him. And like when he opens his mouth, you're like, oh, he's not that scary or mean. He just looks it. And so they did a perfect job casting him, because you're like, oh, this guy could be a serial killer from the 50s. Nope. He's just a friendly neighbor who got into an argument with his son, and they have been butting heads ever since.
Yeah.
Which that part's realistic too.
Oh man, it's so realistic. And I want to bring that up later too, for sure, when we get to deeper themes, because there's a lot going on there in that scene.
A lot going on. And I do like that he hides out in the nativity scene when he's first being followed by Marv and Harry. And then he just goes to the church because he needs something Christmassy.
Yeah. Also going to talk about that. Yeah, you're all over it. All over it.
This is, again, one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies. Might be number one, to be honest.
Let's move on to what doesn't hold up. Okay. And I'll go first. Uncle Frank is tripping.
So Uncle Frank is the worst.
Ain't no brother-in-law telling one of my kids, look what you did, you little jerk. His parents are right there. You're going to let him talk to your kid that way?
How is he connected? Like, is his wife someone's sister?
It's gotta be the wife is the sister of Kevin's mom, right? That's what it's gotta be. That dude's not blood relation to anybody.
But like,
all the more reason he ain't getting away with that.
Now in the second one, him singing in the shower is hilarious, and then him yelling at Kevin, and then that being used on the tape recorder is great. But yes, Uncle Frank, cheapskate, because he's like, I can't pay for this.
Dude's getting a free trip to Paris already.
Yeah, can't pay for the pizza or help chip in.
Yeah, dude, he's the, oh man. I had so many feelings watching him in this.
Watch the second one because he's laughing at what Buzz does to Kevin at the Christmas play. He's a jerk and a half.
What doesn't hold up for you?
So this movie will not age well with a younger audience.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of scenes, and it's really noticeable when Kevin goes across to the treehouse and he's like, come get me before I call the cops. And they're about to go after him. And Harry's like, he's not going to call the cops from a tree.
Right. Yeah. No cell phones.
No cell phones, but yet he could easily call the cops from a tree now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, none of this happens.
Oh, yeah.
So we have our final question. I'll give everyone a little preview. How would you even tell this story now? Because there's so much of this that just doesn't work today.
So Home Alone 4, French Stewart's in it, and the house is like automated. And that's part of the conceit.
Okay.
And so it doesn't work, and I don't know.
Home Alone 4 doesn't work.
Home Alone 4 doesn't work. I'll give you some thoughts later about if I think that you can make this again.
The next thing that doesn't hold up, who's letting the teenager do the count? The final count before you go to the airport. Look, my teen is responsible, more responsible than most kids her age, but there's no way that anyone is handling that last count but me. No way. No way.
Yeah.
I've never felt that way before, but on the rewatch, I just wasn't buying it. I'm like, no way that one of those parents isn't doing that final count.
And then Fuller McAllister, played by Kieran Culkin, the more talented of the Culkins. I'll name it and claim it.
Oh, man. He just threw down the gauntlet.
I should have posted that Tuesday.
That's a hot take.
That's a hot
take Tuesday.
Remind me.
Save it. That'll be our next hot take Tuesday.
But he wets the bed. Don't let him drink the Pepsi.
Why are they giving him Pepsi?
Not this late.
Also, diapers are a thing, my man. You're staying at someone else's house. You're going to let him drink Pepsi, you better put him in a diaper.
But if it is, so I guess that would have to be Uncle Frank's kid.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
So then Frank would be Dad's brother because it's Fuller McAllister.
Okay, but there are kids present from his other brother who's in France.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
he's one of his. So the oldest that does the count is the other McAllister brothers' kid.
So I don't know. We need the book.
We need a family tree. We need a legit, detailed family tree right now to sort this out.
There was just so many McAllisters and kids.
So many.
Joe Pesci. I felt bad for him, even though I knew he was the bad guy.
About halfway through this movie, our protagonist, Kevin McAllister, goes to the grocery store.
Love him going shopping.
Yeah,
both times.
Let me just give you a short list of what I saw that he had here. He's got a half gallon of milk.
Yep.
He's got plastic wrap. He's got a Stouffer's frozen dinner.
Mac and cheese.
And another one. He had there was another box there.
Oh, yeah.
So there was another one. There's Snuggle dryer sheets. There was Wonder Bread, not generic. He got Wonder Bread. He had a 4-pack of toilet paper. He had legitimate Kraft macaroni and cheese, not generic again. He had a baggie of plastic army figurines, which were lots more prevalent back then than they are now. He had Tide liquid laundry detergent, which back then that was upper crust stuff. He had a half gallon of orange juice. That was just what we could see. Total cost of Kevin's items come to $19.83 after accounting for the $1 off coupon for the orange juice.
I was going to say, he has coupons.
So he pays with a $20 bill. He deals with the nosy cashier. and leaves with his purchases. Now, TikTok user Jeffrey Lyons took it upon himself to kind of figure out the cost of what the same or comparable groceries would be today, claiming that Kevin would have spent $64 today before taxes on similar items.
Also, I don't recall. I'd have to pay more attention to when he steals Buzz's life savings, but I don't recall there being a $20 bill.
It's a little error. Poor
Potentially.
Buzz lost his life savings.
Slash, like, that's something that doesn't hold up at the end of the movie, because the whole family shows up and they're like, well, we don't have any milk. And he's like, well, I bought groceries all your way. Milk, fabric softener, orange juice. And no one bothers to ask him, what money did you use to pay for this?
Also, that house was wrecked.
I don't know how he put it all back together.
Oh, clearly he didn't put Buzz's room back together.
Clearly. And like Daniel Stern broke the outer frame of the basement door. Like, because he pries outside and cracks the frame. So,
last word on the groceries, both bags giving out at the same time. That's just terrible luck.
That was the most relatable thing I noticed with Kevin is like, I've had grocery bags and trash bags just give out.
The only thing that was weird was that was still really close to the beginning of the plastic bag era. There's still a lot of grocery stores that were probably still doing brown bags at that time.
Well, you can't see the items.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. You have to be able to see what he's got.
I do love that he did ask at the first time he goes out shopping if this toothbrush is approved by the ADA.
Yes. Yeah. About 4 out of 5 dentists approve.
But like the cop chasing him for shoplifting as the cop has someone pulled over seems a little odd to me.
It was dramatic. It was a little over dramatic. I feel like he would not have left a perp that he already had for an 8-year-old.
And like when the kid yells shoplifter and he looks at a little kid, I don't know if we're that concerned.
No. What anything else do you have that doesn't hold up?
So the water freezes on the steps. Mm-hmm. And he uses a garden hose. Mm-hmm. Like, they must have quality piping.
Yeah, good point.
Because it is winter in Chicago, and here we are, and like everything's freezing around them. But nope, not these pipes. Kevin's able to get water all over his house.
Yeah, that's wild. All right. Anything else? The last thing I have is the booby traps. Many of them are capable of killing a man. That's the only thing I notice every time I watch it now.
So the second one, they get ratcheted up.
Yeah. The second one's really bad. Like, dude, doesn't like one of them he throws paint cans off a roof or something?
Yeah.
The tools in the face. That's another one. Like that would have caved in my man's whole face.
So yes, throughout the Home Alone movies, Marv and Harry are #blessed that they're still standing by the end.
Marv specifically would be dead man.
Oh, and poor Harry lost his gold tooth.
Let's real quickly hit Christmas tropes.
Okay.
The Christmas storm. There's always the storm, right?
There is the storm. Knocked out the power and phone lines.
Yeah.
Which, again, not having cell phones, big deal.
Yeah, that's a little window into what it was like. My kids asked me while we were watching it, they said, did that happen a lot? And I was like, yeah. If you, especially in summer in Kansas, if you had a storm in the middle of the night, knocked out power.
I remember a really bad ice storm like damaged everything, and there was no phone, no electricity, and it was that way for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. So back in either 1983 or 84, I was living in Topeka with my mom, and we had a bad ice storm in March of all times. It was like early March, and we didn't have power for like 6 days in Topeka, which is, the capital.
Oh my goodness.
It was one of the worst ice storms, I think, in my lifetime.
They referred to it as the Great Ice Storm of 83 or 84.
I bet there's some old timers that still remember that. Oh yeah, I was there. I was there when it. No. The lesson. There's always the character in the Christmas story that learns the lesson.
Kevin needed to learn one.
And it's the same lesson, right? It's always the character who has to learn how good they actually have it. They have to learn gratitude.
Oh yeah.
We could call it the Scrooge. This movie, I don't think I noticed before how much Christmas Carol imagery there is in this movie. The scary old man is named Marley.
He is.
Just like the Marley of the Christmas Carol, he's meant to serve as kind of a cautionary tale to a young Kevin. That family, the lesson is that family and connection is hard, but the alternative is worse. It's not what one would desire.
Oh yeah.
And you're not going to flourish that way.
Heartbreaking.
And that seems to be a common Christmas trope lesson that we borrow a lot from Christmas Carol, which of course Dickens was borrowing a lot of his own from a certain faith
background.
Yeah. Any other Christmas tropes you want to mention?
Let's see. Besides that, the good guys win in the end.
Yeah.
And family is reunited.
Yeah. That's a good segue into deeper themes. When the criminals chase Kevin, his asylum is a church.
It is.
The church is where he runs to find security and peace. Remember, he shows up later, the Oh Holy Night, the song playing in the background. There's this kind of constant thing going on with we just kind of mentioned in the Christmas trope that there's a message of unity and family. The old man says, well, you're always welcome at church.
He did say that.
And I hope that's still true. Like, we're pastors. I think everyone would be welcome at my church and yours, but maybe there are some churches where we're not as welcoming as we'd like to be. But I loved that when the old man said that. Was like, well, you're always welcome in church.
That's why it's called Sanctuary.
The scary old man's story that plays into all of this, is about reconciliation.
It is. And he also wasn't that scary.
No. And he says this to Kevin. He says, deep down, you'll always love them, your family, but you can forget that you love them and you can hurt them and they can hurt you. And that's not just because you're young. And the point of this story is Marley is calling Kevin to forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it made me think of this scripture, Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 and 13. Therefore, as God's chosen ones, holy and dearly loved, put on compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another if anyone has a grievance against another. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you are also to forgive. And I think that's a good theme for like the whole movie. It's kind of heading to that place. Reconciliation. It's all about reconciliation.
It is. And Kevin, like miniature sage kid, kind of turns it back on Marley and is like, can't you reconcile with your family?
Yeah.
And so at the very end of the movie, I know we're jumping.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Yeah.
My wife walks into the room and she's like, this scene growing up always made me cry. And it's Marley with his family and Kevin looking over him. And after Kevin's been reunited with his, and it tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah, because it's supposed to, and because there's something about there's like an internal truth that's present here, that no matter how mad our people get, we get at our people, right? Someone in your family, a friend, you can get angry, and anger is not we don't believe anger is a sin because it says that in the Bible. Anger's meant to point you towards God, because it's meant to, when you experience injustice, you get angry, and they're mean to Kevin.
They are.
And so he's right to be angry. Now, he doesn't handle it real well. We're not saying that he's justified in his behavior. But the whole point of the whole story is that reconciliation is better than revenge, right?
And even Buzz, when he comes back, is like, it's cool that you didn't burn the house down.
Yeah, just because he hasn't seen his room yet.
This is true, because that's the way the movie ends.
Honestly, Home Alone 2 should have been about Buzz. He should have been the one to learn the Christmas lesson. That
would have been nice, but no.
No, they did not go that direction. You can't fit Donald Trump into that story. It'd be harder, much harder. Anything you want to say in deeper themes?
I mean, this movie has a little bit of everything. And like the journey of getting back to your kid. If you just focus on Catherine O'Hara's character, she goes through it all, willing to sell everything, give up everything, just to be with her child who is by himself, lonely in the world.
Yeah.
And it was... There's a lot of biblical stories that I could point to, even parables.
Mm-hmm. There's a little prodigal son in here.
Even the pearl of great worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you know what's important and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get that.
Yeah. You will mortgage all your worldly possessions to attain it.
Yep. Yeah. In which, when they're in Scranton, of all places, because this is the first time I picked up that when she is at the airport with the Kenosha Kickers, they're in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
We need a crossover with the Kenosha Kickers with Michael Scott.
It is weird, though, like her flight pattern, because she flew to Dallas at one point.
Yeah, she's going all over.
And somehow ended up in Scranton. But at that point, she is pleading with the airline that she would give everything and anything just to get to Chicago, and they can't help her, but Gus Polinski can.
That's you darn right he can. He can, and he's the hero of the movie. He's the hero of the movie, but now it's time we need to designate the winner of the movie. Who's the winner of the movie, Cody?
Okay, so I feel I'm biased, so I'm going to have to put John Candy off on the side.
Okay.
Because I think...
We just named him hero of the movie.
Yeah, he's hero of the movie. That is what he will be. If you would have asked me in my childhood, I would have said Daniel Stern.
Oh, interesting.
Would have said Daniel Stern. And honestly, he might easily be the best character in the whole franchise. Has the most laughs. I think I'm going to go with Catherine O'Hara.
Oh, that's
this go around. It really hit, like what she's bringing to the table, acting wise, what her character goes through. Because like the rest of the family members don't get jack diddly squat to do. It is Kevin and Mom.
Yeah.
Mom and Kevin. Mom has her own side adventures. Goes on a flight by herself, gives away like a bunch of stuff to some nice old people. Well, one nice old lady and a cranky old guy.
They're making deals.
Yes.
Wheeling and dealing.
And then gets to hang out with some polka hipsters.
Yeah.
But no, she like carries emotional gravitas in her scenes, which I think brings out the best in Macaulay Culkin when they do have these moments.
Yeah.
Although, as Sam pointed out, some of them were not filmed together, which is even more impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, she was great. And I don't think there's anything, I wouldn't argue with that pick at all. Catherine O'Hara is, I think, just underappreciated.
Moira Rose is brilliant.
Yeah, and she's the best part of Schitt's Creek.
Yes,
and I think it's wonderful. She's amazing. I will kind of piggyback off of what you started saying there, though. I think the first 5 years after this movie, you would have said Macaulay Culkin is the winner of this movie because he literally just is a superstar.
He is.
After this movie, he does like Richie Rich. He does all these other movies, and he's just in the public eye. But then, like so many others that experience childhood stardom, things get really rough for him. Mm-hmm. And he handles it, I think over time we can say, boy, he handled it about as well as you could hope.
Oh, yeah.
Because he seems very well adjusted now. He's not someone who hates his past.
Yeah. And like he knew that the industry wasn't something that he needed.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm retired from that.
Yeah. So I didn't have an idea of the winner and losers of this movie until I didn't want to go into the movie watching it last night with that in mind. But watching the movie last night, I'm going to say the winners of the movie are the Wet Bandits.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern are the stars of this movie. They do so much of the heavy lifting, even the little side things where they're sitting in the van together.
The first house they're at, and Daniel Stern's making all the racket, and Joe Pesci's like, you are a world-class cat burglar. Can you quiet down?
The part where they're talking about how the McAllister's house is the big one. And he's like, oh, there's probably this and there and there and this and there. And Daniel Stern goes, toys? And Harry just ignores him and just never comes back to it.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Like the physical reactions they have to all the torture that their characters go through. They do a lot of heavyweight like facial acting in those scenes.
I already mentioned it, but the scream he lets out when that spider is on his face is just, I laugh so hard that I can't breathe.
Yeah.
I literally think I'm dying when I watch that scene because I'm laughing so hard.
So for most of my life, Daniel Stern was the winner of the movie. Yeah. I am having like a Christmas feel-good moment in choosing Catherine O'Hara.
Daniel Stern really has a moment back in this time. He's the voice of the Wonder Years. He's the narrator of Grown Up Kevin. Oh. He is in City Slickers 1 and 2 with Billy Crystal.
City Slickers.
Yeah. He's in Rookie of the Year, the movie about the kid who breaks his arm and becomes a major league pitcher. He's in a lot of stuff right around this time. And he had quite the run in this few year span. Who is, are you looking up his IMDb?
I am, just because I'm like, I gotta see if my memory is as good as I thought it was.
He's in a lot of stuff. Yeah.
was one that had come to my mind, and then
I mean, really, it's in this like 2, 3, 4 year span.
Yeah. Not a whole lot lately.
No, or before. So like, okay, so in 1990, it's Home Alone. 92, Home Alone 2. Rookie of the Year is 93. City Slickers is 91. City Slickers 2 is 94. Another big movie, Celtic Pride, he did with Dan Aykroyd. That was 96, and that was sort of the end. That was sort of his last big one that I remember. And then, like, before and after that, there's just... I don't know. There's not much there, but he just has this moment that kind of kick starts with Home Alone.
Yep. Yeah. Good movie.
I love Daniel Stern. Who's the loser of the movie?
So honestly, it might be the pizza guy. Just because I always thought that he looked like a familiar face and that he was going to be in a lot of things growing up. Nope. He's not.
I mean, he got a good tip.
He did. Although not from Kevin.
No, that was not a great tip. I wanted to see if they even mentioned him in the cast. they do. Dan Charles Zukowski. Oh, he's old.
Exactly. So he's not even the picture they have. He doesn't even look like he was probably a kid back then. He just looked young.
I'm trying to read about him here. Born in 1971. Wow.
Oh, well, then he would have been like a 20-year-old around then. So.
Yeah, I mean, so he's 29 years old when this movie comes out. And yeah, that's wild. Dan Charles Zukowski. Okay.
I thought he would be something.
He was not.
That's a spoiler alert, kids.
At least not in the movie star sense. For me, the loser of the movie, and this was re-emphasized as I watched it again last night, is Buzz and always Buzz. Buzz is the worst.
I'm surprised you're not going Uncle Frank.
Uncle Frank is just bitter. I just, Uncle Frank, you just don't like Uncle Frank because nobody likes Uncle Frank.
And I feel a lot of families have an Uncle Frank.
But like Buzz is a special kind of mean because you understand that it comes all from his own insecurity. That's why he's so mean. He takes out his insecurity on everyone else. And it's because he hasn't matured. I'll give him, he's a teenager. Okay.
He's a teenager. I do like that they didn't want to make fun of some poor teenage girl. So when they showed the picture of Buzz's girlfriend, and is this in the second movie or the first?
Oh, it's in the first. Remember?
Okay,
he looks at the picture and goes, "Oh, Buzz's girlfriend." Woof.
Yes. So it's Buzz with a wig.
That's right.
And so, like, the director at least had enough foresight to be compassionate to some girl that she's not going to grow up being the woof lady.
Buzz, the actor, should have got double billing.
Should have.
He should have got double billing for that. That's amazing.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Before we rate this movie.
There's a big question. We sort of talked about it already.
Yes.
Could this story be told today? That's the question.
Okay.
But we kind of already answered that when saying, but I don't think so.
No. Like, you either have to lean into the full campiness and the conceit that, like, maybe somehow the cell towers got knocked down.
Even airport security throws a wrench into this movie.
Yes.
Because in today's world, there's no way they're making that flight. Because they run right up to the gate.
Nope. You got to be there a couple hours early at least.
Yeah. Not happening.
So
go ahead. What was your question?
My question is, which is better, Home Alone 1 or 2?
Oh, I always go with the classic. I'm a Home Alone 1 guy.
So my wife said 2, and I thought about it because after watching 1 today, I started 2, and I'm like, there might be a better ensemble around so that you still have the sticky bandits at this time carrying the weight. But then you have Tim Curry, you have Rob Schneider, you have the old man that runs the toy store, Mr. Duncan, you have Susan Boyle.
The lady, yeah.
But it's not Susan Boyle, but she looks like Susan Boyle.
That was mean.
She looks like Susan Boyle.
She kind of does.
So you have like a good cast around him that are doing a lot of like funny bits in the heartwarming stuff. But he's not home alone.
Yeah.
He does visit his uncle's home that's being renovated for a little bit.
Home Alone 2, I will admit, has some superior facets. Better ensemble.
That shower scene at the hotel's hilarious. When Tim Curry walks in and he has the Bozo blow-up doll and has Uncle Frank singing.
Do you want to know my problem with Home Alone 2?
Is it Donald Trump just pointing him to the elevator?
No, it's not. It's not the Donald. It's the mayhem. It's too over the top. It's too violent.
Oh, it is.
The last time I watched 2, I was like ashamed almost to be showing that to my children. And my children were reacting to it. They were like, oh, because like that's not humor they've grown up with. Because that was like a decidedly kind of late 80s thing.
Well, as someone that lived the 80s, I love it.
You did.
But
You did.
I will say this one, film one, is my fave, and it might just solely be because of John Candy.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. That's a good spot to end it. What about you, listener? Home Alone 1 or 2? Which one is superior for you? That's a good question to end it on. Tell us what you think on the post for the social media. We are on YouTube now. Another way for you to enjoy our podcast, and maybe some along the way we'll start adding some real video content.
Word. So no pizza slices?
No. Oh, how many pizza slices out of 10 are you giving Home Alone?
I'll go a solid 8.5.
8.5, yeah. That sounds good. I was going to give it an 8 or a 9, so I'll go 8.5 too. That's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
You filthy animal.
It's a classic that lives up to the name classic. It's a classic.
It is.
And great performances, great actors. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Pop culture